Okay. Mm, mm, mm. Aumba. T. Hum. Ho. Okay. How diddly do everyone in YouTube land? It's your boy, Teagle the Beagle, back again with another, low-effort shitpost, to be honest. This is a video I decided just randomly to make. Also, sorry if I blocked the underlighting there. I'm currently using my phone with a flashlight because there wasn't enough lighting in here. Please donate money. I'm poorer than dirt. Now, I've decided to make a low-effort garbage video because I decided I want to put out more videos, even though school is whooping my ass. Please save me. So today we're going over just the many decks I have made, and some of my favorites I have made. Not all of them, a lot of them I think suck. And a lot of them I did make on stream. So if you ever want to see me make Magic the Gathering decks, it's pretty much the only thing I do now. Why is my dog barking at me? God damn it. Go away. Go. Ah! I'm gonna shoot myself. Anyways, we're gonna be going over some of my favorites we made last time we were here. The most recent thing I made was Casket Artifacts. I have since made a lot. Most of them, at least when they were made, were under $50. To be clear, that's my budget, is $50 whenever I make one of these decks. If I didn't have that budget, I would be making $300+ decks, and I'm not trying to sell people CEDH, alright? I'm trying to sell people something affordable. Because Magic the Gathering is anything but affordable. Granted, I also pulled Ohertak a year ago, and now that card's worth $30, so technically it's affordable. I hate this investing shit. Anyways, let's go over some of them. This one was not one of the $50 decks, so I don't want to go over it. When I made it, it was about $60. It is now $88. I truly hate every single one of you for ever increasing the cost of discard effects. With it, when it's like self-discard with Hatcheton, I don't give a shit. When it's discarding from your opponent's hand, oh boy do I ever hate my life. Also, this one also used to be under $50, but then they decided to make the Mind Skinner expensive, as well as all the good mill cards. To be fair, it's only 62, so it's nothing crazy. So we're not going to go over those. However, the first deck we're going to go over, which I think is still under 50, is oh yeah, I made this one with a budget of 80. We'll still go over it. Multani Maro-Sorcerer. Load this back. How do I view card details? Multani Maro-Sorcerer is a 4/5/6 mana mono green card that has power and toughness equal to the number of cards in all players' hand and hexproof. Any spells or abilities, not just your opponent's, just anything. However, I think it's called Shroud, not hexproof. Yeah. He's a really expensive card, but he's really good. Remember, if each player, including yourself, only has 4 cards in hand, which is unlikely in green when you're ramping constantly, he will have 5, 10, 15, 20. He will be a 20/20. And so our focus is to semi-group hug, make it so our opponents draw, but also to put as many cards in our hand as possible, put as big as creatures on our field as possible, and then also we play stuff like just literally any card with the same power toughness, and things like Hydras. This is for a very specific card in here called Symmetry Matrix, which means that when a creature with equal power toughness enters the battlefield, we could pay 1, draw a card. So it synergizes really well. And even if we don't have that card in the field, I mean, every card in here is just still good for the deck. The Hydras are just huge cards. All the ramp we have is just good ramp. Like, oh, excuse me, sorry. The entire deck itself is just really good at ramping and drawing cards, which are things you want to be doing, I would hope. Granted, we also have a couple fog effects as our only forms of protection, but also our commander directly has the protection he kind of needs. Like, we're not going to get greedy on protection. So that's one deck. I should also mention every single deck will be down in the description for you to get download, whatever. We then have Grolnok Millfrogs, which is another $80 budget deck. And this is based on Grolnok the Omnivore. Now, Grolnok is a really fucking cool card because he says, whenever a frog you control attacks, mill 3. We play a couple frogs in here, they're not really the main focus. Whenever a permanent is put from your library into your graveyard, you exile it with a croak counter. You may play anything you own with a croak counter on it as long as Grolnok is on field. So play the one of 500 cards that say mill 20 or mill half your library. You just increase your hand by that many cards. You will never miss it. You basically play him, ramp 1 turn, mill half your library, and then whenever he's on board, you have a hand of 50 cards. That's pretty much the only payoff for this deck, though, to be honest. You just want to... I mean, there's also a lot of things that allow you to cast spells from Flash, so you can play them on your opponent's turn as well. So that's pretty cool. Pretty decent quality of lands, about 34. I try to stick to around 36 to 38 lands nowadays. I find it's just good practice, but it's not bad. Also, there's just, like, any good frogs I could find in here I decided to put in, because why not? If I was building this deck competitively, I would just simply find a way to... The combo would basically be, if you want to build this deck competitively, is swap out one of these cards for Omniscience, play every good mill card that mills half your library, or, like, a ton of mill, and then just do that. Just do that, exile Omniscience with this, play Omniscience with this, or just play it from your hand, or play something else that allows you to put enchantments or whatever from your hand or exile or whatever onto the battlefield. And then you win, because you can play half your deck instantaneously. I also always like to point out the infinite combo with Chakram Retriever on Omniscience. Omniscience makes everything free. Chakram Retriever, he just untaps shit when things are played. And then you play Arcanus the Omnipotent and draw out your entire deck as well. Yeah, those 3 are a great infinite combo. They're all blue, though, so it would be a more blue-heavy variant of the deck. To be fair, since we're playing mostly mill, it already is very blue-reliant. But it's not bad. One of our payoffs is just Amphibious Downpour, which, well, that's really not... It's just a thing to make it so that your opponents have nothing, and you could beat over them. The deck doesn't have too much of a payoff, to be honest. But, you know, you can always switch into milling your opponents out. That's really funny if you do. Anyways, moving on to the next deck that we can play. As soon as it loads, sorry, this computer is made of cardboard. We then have another $80 deck, which is Aristocrats Death Priest. We're playing Mazeric Cruel Death Priest. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This means whenever anyone sacrifices anything, put a +1/+1 counter on everything you own. So, play stuff like Throne of Geth to sacrifice creatures to proliferate. I decided to build this deck around, well, I was trying to build this deck around the Demogoths. Any card that says Demogoth on it specifically says that when it attacks or blocks or does something, you sacrifice a creature. But they're also 4-mana cards for 11/10. So I found it, you know, pretty useful. Any payoffs to sacrificing creatures are really good. Any good creatures to sack. At the worst, you can always just sacrifice everything you own. There's also a ton of cards that are just like, when this enters, each player sacrifices a creature. There's motherfuckers like Geth, Lord of the Vault, which is just, he does things. Hierophant Biotitan fucks around with +1/+1 counters. All these guys do. Such as Clomaveras, which, you know, for each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, he gets +1. Or, wait, each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter. So you double the amount of +1/+1 counters without doubling the amount of +1/+1 counters. The deck is pretty good. It's at 32 lands. Again, a little low in my opinion. It has a decent amount of draw. That it's focused on all the like 1 or 2 mana cards that say sacrifice a creature, draw a card. It has, the basic payoff is just big beatdown, but it's also just really good because the commander itself is a flyer that will perpetually get bigger as you play it. There's also a couple of recursion cards that have some sacrifice. What was I... Wait. They have some sacrifice ability. Some cards make tokens. There's a little bit of ramp in here just to get them out faster. But yeah, I really like the deck. For $70.49, it's aged pretty well, to be honest. We then have, I think, the next deck I'll be buying in paper, if I ever can. Ooh, we're just barely scraping the 80. It's Rendmaw Token Hug. So the point of this deck is Rendmaw. Let's go ahead and look at our commander, shall we? When he enters the battlefield, or when you play a card with 2 or more card types, to be specific, card types are this part of the card on the left, not the legendary part. Legendary is like an identifier, I forget the exact word, and then the stuff after it is like, so artifact creatures and enchantment creatures are the big ones off the top of my head. Aren't there like saga creatures too? Now you can play those. We create a tapped 2/2 Blackbird creature token with flying on each player's, what's it called? Each player's board. And tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. Goaded, not goated, goaded. So the whole point of it is that we play as many artifact creatures as possible, get some artifact payoffs in there, some sacrificing for the tokens and such, and then we play cards such as Wingstorm deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of creatures with flying that player controls. It will kill us, but it will kill everyone simultaneously. So I think it's funny. Also, we play like a couple different sack outlets in this deck. Like, it's surprising. We actually do play enough of them for it to matter. So we can continuously sacrifice the tokens, as well as there's also, since the tokens are considering if they ever leave the battlefield to go into the graveyard, there's a specific card in here, let me see if I can find it, that says whenever a black creature an opponent control dies, there it is, or goes into the graveyard, as it's worded, you get to draw a card. So we're constantly drawing. We also have stuff that are finishers, such as End Raise Forerunners. If you can't pick up the big green guy who makes everything trample in plus 10 billion, you can always pick up this guy, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. And when he enters, each creature you control gets +2/+2, Vigilance, and Trample until end of turn. A going wide board with this guy pretty much means you win the game anyway. It's just not always as effective. We also play Zenith Chronicler because I thought it was a good card when I made this deck. I'm not technically wrong. Wormcoil Larva also is a pretty cool card. It's like bad, but it's like a pretty cool card, right? Anyways, that's Rendmaw. He's a really fun deck. I've actually tried playing him and he was really fun. I didn't win. I don't think he can win. But he's pretty cool. I did change up Brenlin plus Karak a bit since I last built it. But the main deck, this is actually the one I built in real life, and unfortunately, ever since I built it, it did actually, a lot of the cards increased in price. Like, for example, I bought, let me go over the deck first, and I'll go over why the hell it's expensive now, but when I bought it, it was like $40. I am not joking, it was $40. This is the only argument for why Magic the Gathering is good the way it is, because I can flip like off a dime. To be clear, it's not good. I've gone over that in a separate video. Why don't you go check it out, where I talk about the state of a lot of card games right now. Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering, and even Pokemon. Just all that good stuff. However, we're going to go over this commander deck, which is the Master Transcendant. When he enters, target player gets 2 rads, and he can tap himself to put a creature from a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield, except it becomes a mutant and becomes a 3/3. So, play a bunch of things that can untap your dude, which also are creatures, so you can bring them back. Play a bunch of graveyard recursion for the things that you miss, because he taps once, brings back one thing, and then you have like 15 other things in your graveyard you can't use now. Play ramps such as Tato Farmer, which gets you more rad counters, so you're milling more off those rad counters. And he brings back land from the graveyard, which is great. Just stuff like that's awesome. Granted, most things that bring land from the graveyard are really expensive. However, I bought this deck when Muldrotha and Marvin were both 99-cent cards. Like, there's a ton of cards in here who have, like, Woodland Cemetery. This was like a $36 card when I bought it. Why is it so expensive now? To be clear, I'm not complaining. It's just shocking me. This is meant to be a $50 deck. Like Fleet Swallower. Again, no one played this. Why is it $3 now? I I have no words, but to be honest, I'm not complaining. And you know what? Uh, I'm pretty happy about it. The deck is exceedingly fun because it advances itself out of nowhere. You'll just be playing like on turn 6 and you're like, damn, I can't do anything. I can't do anything. I just milled Muldrotha and now I can win the game. Because the deck can get like consistently an insane amount of mana. I'm talking like 10 billion mana on turn 6 or some shit. So you can pretty much play out your entire graveyard once you have someone like Muldrotha or Marvin to get to tap twice to get more stuff, the untappers to get more stuff. There's not much draw in this deck, but you won't need to draw that much, to be honest. The deck is more about playing singular threatening bombs than about throwing out your hand. And it is extremely fun to play. It's a little bit controlly in the fact that you want your opponents to leave you alone till you have a lot of mana up, but there's not a lot of control pieces. It's just that they're not going to want to hit you until they've already hit each other, and now they can't hit anyone anymore, and then we win. Extremely fun deck. Would recommend it to pretty much anyone. Like, it has a bunch of pingers as well. We're going to skip back past the ones that I don't think are fun. Like that one and that one. We are picking this one, though, because it's Scry Tribal. Scribble, if you will. I thought I was really fucking clever when I made that up. So the point of this deck is to mess around with mono blue partner commanders. Don't worry, when I build partner commanders, I'm not a pussy. I build some weird shit. Granted, this is like really boring. It's my least favorite deck that I actually like, but still. Elegith Crossroads Augur is a flying 5/6 for 6 that says whenever you would scry, draw that many instead. We then play just a little guy named Stony Eye of the Storm, which says when you attack, scry X with a number of attacking creatures with flying. If we attack with 2 flying creatures, we scry 2. No, we draw 2. Both these guys have flying too. I'm convinced they should have just been the same commander. They should have just been one guy, and he was worth 7 mana or something, and then we wouldn't have to deal with partners. I love partners, but I also think they're really fucking dumb. So we play as much, and I mean as much scry cards as possible. We play a bunch of ramp, we play protection, we play as many good flyers as we can possibly get, maybe some removal, and some stuff that's like just payoff for card draw. I mean, I think that's pretty fair. The deck is $50.96, with literally just barely in the $50 mark. When we built it, it was about 40, and a lot of the cards, like Homunculus Horde, have gone up in price, so really not fun. That's not very cool, guys. Anyways, the next deck I'm really proud of is Horrigan Counters. The whole point of this deck is to mess around with Horrigan, which has indestructible as long as it's attacking, or it is attacked. It attacks. My bad. When it attacks and after it attacks, it has indestructible, as well as when he enters the battlefield or attacks, proliferate twice. So play anything with counters. Planeswalkers, go right ahead. They're expensive as hell, but sure, +1/+1 counters, go right ahead. I play a mixture of all sorts of things like rad counters, +1/+1 counters, a little bit of poison counters, if you will. It's actually the best thing you can do with this guy. Proliferating twice and hitting everyone with Infect every turn, they will just lose, like, after he comes on board. You could also just go Infect, get everyone up to 8 counters, and then Horrigan to win the game as he enters the battlefield. And if they don't have a counterspell, they get fucked. That's what that means. But also, Infect creatures are expensive. Not CMC-wise, but on my wallet. So, I don't want to do that. $50. It takes a while to get going, but the deck itself, once it gets going, is insane! We also have Scheming Aspirant, and cards like it, which make it so that when we proliferate, we can just drain or hurt people, which is great. I don't really have much to say about it, but that's a really cool card. It's a really cool deck, in my opinion. We then have Donal Flying Tribal. This deck is just above 50 now. because of a specific card. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Fucking High Tide. I hate you, High Tide. Why couldn't you stay cheap? Anyways, you're playing Donal, Herald of Wings. He's a 4-mana guy who's a 3/3. When you cast a non-legendary creature spell with flying, you create a copy that's a 1/1 spirit in addition to everything else. What? Also, we played things like Crystal Shard, which allowed us to return creatures from our field to our hand and then recast them, creating more copies of them. And since they're non-legendary, they just keep coming and going, 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 coming and going. We just keep doing that over and over and over and over and over. Also, creatures who care about creatures with flying coming into play, or can reduce the cost of creatures with flying, or can buff creatures with flying. Yeah, pretty good. Also, all tribal support works for this deck. So anything, because guess what? We're making 1,000,000 spirits. We make them into specifically spirits. So tribal support works with this deck. Such as Distant Melody. I only put it in this deck because I actually have it in paper. Meaning I can just tear this little precon I built a while ago apart and steal it. But, what was I going to say? Hold on, wait for it to load. That deck's really fun. The next deck I built is actually, I think, my favorite deck right now. Yeah, it's like probably my favorite deck. And that is the Second Doctor and Leela 7-Team Warrior. Now, this deck was actually built around a challenge because I wanted as many fog cards in a deck as possible. It was also built under $50 originally, but some cards had to get expensive again. I'm gonna fucking shoot! Okay, Fog's not expensive. Fog was $1.29 last time I looked at this deck. Oh, it's literally just the cards that say creatures are unblockable. It's these motherfuckers, isn't it? Where is it? Yep, $1.29. Bastards knew it. Anyways, the deck itself focuses around Leela 7-Team Warrior, which gets a +1/+1 counter each time your opponent draws a card outside their first one, each turn. And the Second Doctor, which makes it so that no one has a maximum hand size, and at the end of the turn, at the end of your turn, each player may decide to draw a card, including yourself. You get a free draw, but if your opponents decide to draw off this, they all are not allowed to attack you until your next turn, when this ability triggers again, and they have to decide if they want to attack you now or not. So early game, everyone's going to be taking the card draw, making Leela bigger and bigger and bigger. We then make her unblockable. Since she's a commander, we only have to put her up to 21 to one-shot people. One-shot people. You know, commander damage, the thing that never actually matters. Well, it matters heavy in this deck. We also play just a bunch of, like, group hug stuff to get people to stop hurting us, because, like, oh, no, don't hurt us. We're giving you shit. We're giving you card draw. Ignore the fact that I'm also dealing you damage for the amount of cards you have in your hand, or for drawing cards at all. Just keep drawing. It's fine. And then they're like, oh, I want to hit you anyway. All right. Pay 24 mana per creature to attack me. And they're like, okay, I did it. Well, I pay 2 mana to make it so you didn't actually hurt me at all. We play like 30 of these motherfuckers, I swear. It is, it's really fun. Don't need that much ramp, but I do prefer to have a little bit in this deck, especially, Solovia Explorer returned, which it reveals the top of each player's library. For each non-land revealed, we add a green, and then everyone draws that card. We will always know what people have in their hand. It's awesome. Also, cards that just trigger off of drawing or care about the amount of cards in your hand. Drawing the second card per turn creates a 1/1 token, and with this bitch, creates a 2/2 token. And then also for 6 mana, she can make our entire board like 20/20s. It's awesome. Moniska also gets really huge whenever we draw our second card each turn, and can investigate to give us more card draw. Basically, we can dig through the deck, leave up open mana, play protection. They're never going to be able to get rid of us unless they do board wipes or targeted removal, in which case we do lose. But just trust they won't do it. I promise they won't. That's my favorite deck so far. What's the word? We then have Thievery I didn't like. Now, these next ones were also ones I didn't like. They were me trying to do, like, certain things. They'll also be in the description if you want to check them out. All these decks that you're seeing will, except for Cedra Self-Mill, I actually have never completed. I literally never finished. I just put a bunch of stuff in here. I'm like, alright, that's enough. By the way, if you're looking for good reanimator targets, go look at some of the Eldrazi. Some of these bitches are only 49 cents with Annihilator. I mean, this one's $1.29 now, but, like, what's it called? There's a ton of good Eldrazi that are really strong with Annihilator and exiling permanents. They're really crazy. These two were based on, like, Sliver creature type fun. I made a Sliver Rats deck and tried to make it as cheap as possible, which I did actually manage to do. It's just really fucking bad. It's just really bad. There's also this where I was trying to make slivers without using any commander that referenced slivers. It was a challenge for sure. Jengatha is like the only thing that worked because I was trying to keep the deck cheap. And honestly, I wish I just would have shot myself in the leg. It would have been less painful than spending 3 hours trying to concoct a deck I didn't even like. Now, the next deck that I actually like... Oh yeah, also Thopter time. Play a bunch of artifacts and sack them. This one's fine. It's like it's really powerful, to be clear. Like, this deck is insanely powerful for the amount it costs you, but it's also like just another artifact sacrificing deck, and it bored me after a while of playtesting. This next deck, however, is probably another one of my favorites, and I might buy this deck because it's $46 and me likey. Also because I genuinely think, like, over time I can improve this deck into something pretty goddamn competitive. This relies on its commander very heavily, though, so I'm probably going to add more protection to the deck. Vren the Relentless with Ward 2. He costs 4 mana, Ward 2, so your opponents can't get rid of him when he enters the battlefield as easily. That 2 mana removal, it's now 4. You didn't leave up enough, fuckface. Whenever a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Aristocrats can go fuck themselves. But he's not just a graveyard hate piece, okay? He's even more than that. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens that each get +1/+1 for each other rat you control, including your commander, where X is the number of creatures your opponents controlled that were exiled, including by dying. So if your opponents kill things, you increase your board state. If you kill things with the one of 31 different removal spells in this deck, you get card advantage. You can also just play, like, all the card draw. There's no inherent card draw in this deck, so I just decided, fuck it, add a bunch of... Oh, also Caramonics. Because it gives everything toxic. And fuck it, why not, right? Seriously though, giving everything toxic makes the rats not only scary, but very dangerous, and people will always block them, meaning more of their things die, meaning we get more rats. We then play board wipes, and the reason we play board wipes is this is why I said I can definitely make the deck better. We play board wipes along with specific type of protection called, if until end of turn, target creature gains, that if it would die, you return it to the battlefield. So you use a board wipe, and then immediately pop that bitch back on. It sees that like 12 different things dies, makes 12 rats, and then your opponents just have to deal with it. It also just sets up its own blockers, so if your opponent brings out something big, you can block it and take no damage because your main game plan and removing things is card advantage. The only thing I need is, like, cards that specifically make it so that I can draw off of my opponent's stuff getting exiled, which I don't know if there's anything like that, but that's the whole point of the deck. It's really strong. Also, Splash Portal, which makes it so that we can exile a creature and return it to the battlefield, which is a blink effect, not that crazy. It's really just to dodge certain removal, because he leaves the battlefield and then returns, so the target kind of goes away. But also, since he is a rat, we draw a card when he returns. So, you know, it's just free. It's just free. It's just 1 blue mana, blank and draw. that is really good. I don't know why this card isn't more expensive, but I'm not complaining. Overall, that's all the decks I'm really excited to show you. Every deck that you see, as well as any deck that I've upgraded since last video, including the ones I haven't shown you, will be down in the description for you to check out. I try to keep them all under $50. But sometimes the deck prices increase, and I'm sorry if that's so. This is why I always say, buy decks as soon as possible as you want to play them, because they are going to increase in price eventually. Magic the Gathering doesn't have a good reprint policy, and they're a sack of shit company. So you kinda have to. It does suck. Like, this was like 45 when I made it. It is no longer 45. And that's really fucking annoying. I might just swap out certain cards in here because I really don't like the fact that this is $51. Anyways, I do hope to see y'all later. Please check out my other videos that are actually well edited, and I'll, again, see you all later. Goodbye. Okay, Tegan, now comes the